This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast. Each week, we look at how high net worth families can improve their lives, decisions, and investments in a deeply uncertain world. We always aim to provide practical information, even if we can't offer specific investment advice. Welcome, everyone, to the Definitely Uncertain podcast. My name is Darren Rockman, partner with Goldrock Capital, the 20-year-old multifamily office servicing high net worth families in Israel and around the world. Today, I am really honored to have on the show Joseph Gitler, who is the founder and chairman of Leket, the Israeli food bank. And we're going to talk a little bit about food security and how Joseph got into this activity, into this business. Joseph, welcome to Definitely Uncertain.
Thank you, Darren, for the opportunity and for all that you do to help so many.
Okay. So let's start off with Leket. So give us a minute on what Leket is and what you do.
So conceptually, Leket is a very simple idea. In the West, Israel, US, Australia, those of us who are fortunate, we have an overabundance of food on the one hand, and we also have a percentage of our population that just has a lot of trouble keeping up with the increased cost of living and making ends meet. And so what organizations like Leket do around the world is we try to efficiently find resources, in our case, of healthy, nutritious food, and then distribute it to those who need it. Again, in our case, that being charities. We don't bring food directly to the poor, but we bring high quality cooked meals, high quality agriculture, high quality chilled food that simply would go to waste. And we bring it to soup kitchens, homeless shelters, after school clubs for kids, you name it, agencies throughout the country. And lastly, we are a non-religious, non-denominational organization working with all sectors of Israeli society.
Wow. So that's incredible. What's the extent of Leket's activities? How big is Leket today?
So it's grown a lot since we started in March 2003. Leket today is an organization. We call ourselves the National Food Bank. That we made up that name. The government did not give us that title. And we have over 100 employees in Israel working hand in hand with ordinarily more than 50,000 volunteers a year. Truck drivers, warehouse people, forklift operators, volunteer coordinators, all working together to, most importantly, rescue and redistribute somewhere between 3 to 4 million cooked meals a year and anywhere from 35 to 50 million pounds of fruits and vegetables. So it's a big, big logistic operation with a lot of moving parts. And I'm very thankful that I have a great team that runs it.
Wow. When you say rescue, what does that mean?
So what rescue means is, I'll give you, just a couple of quick examples. Rescue means you were at the King David Hotel for breakfast. Breakfast is finished. There's all this great food left on the buffet. Instead of just dumping it, a Leket truck will show up and collect the excess food and then bring it to, for example, an after-school club for kids where the kids will eat it for lunch when they come after their school day. That's one type of example. And we do that with the Israeli army. We do that with corporate cafeterias, events, etc. In agriculture, it can be market price. So the price of the crops is so low at times that the farmer decides not to even pick it. So we'll come in and pick it with our own team and our own volunteers. It can be order cancellations. It can be ugly fruits and vegetables, which are perfectly edible, but no one will buy them in the supermarket. It can be currency. This, your viewers will be interested. Currency devaluation. So, for example, Israel used to historically export a lot of certain crops to Russia. But over the last few years, as American sanctions have impacted the ruble, it's become much more expensive for Russians to import.
So you're collecting from all different types of places, different parts of the economy. How has the COVID situation over the last few months impacted both on your collection side and then afterwards also obviously on the demand side as you've got increased unemployment?
Right. So on the collection side, everything has changed completely. Cooked meals from the places I mentioned have almost completely dried up. And again, like you said, in a time of increased unemployment, increased need, increased demand, that's very painful for an organization like Leket. For the last 4 months, we raised money to actually purchase meals, and we spent millions of dollars purchasing meals from caterers who normally give us food for free, helping keep them afloat as well, which was a nice win-win. Unfortunately, as we've now hit the middle of July, continuing to purchase at that clip will bankrupt us. So we're just not able. We're still purchasing in some way, but we can't do that anymore. It's often in the charity and philanthropy world that first, when the crisis starts, that there's an inflow, a huge inflow of money, and then you're hopeful that the crisis ends quick enough that you can go back to normal. That is not happening right now. That doesn't look to be the case. So the flip side to that is in agriculture, because all those places, the event halls, the caterers who normally buy huge amounts of fruits and vegetables, our being home and purchasing more groceries doesn't come close to making up for that purchase. So just as an example, in June, Leket distributed £1 million more than we've ever distributed a month, over 5 million pounds of fruits and vegetables just in 1 month.
And what about on the demand side? What is happening within the population?
So look, not surprisingly, the demand side is always strong. I always tell people, if you're giving away something for free that's a value, the demand is always, or as I like to say, send me a charity that isn't looking for money. I'm looking for one of them. Okay. So, by the way, a charity that's not looking for money, you should actually be very concerned by.
Right.
Because it means that they're in a holding pattern. They're not looking to move forward. And so, I would say I'm greedy for Leket. And what I mean by that is, and especially now's the strangest time because everyone's worried about philanthropy. Everyone's worried about just being able to survive. And yet organizations like Leket, not only do we need to survive right now, we actually need to expand because, as you mentioned, you didn't really have to ask that question. You know the answer.
Sure.
The answer is demand has exploded because of not just unemployment. We're also seeing how Israelis who are always living on the razor's edge, we're always in overdraft. And now, how can it be that someone who had a solid job after 1 month of being unemployed needs to be eating in one of our soup kitchens? That's bad planning by them. And that's something that I will hope will change in some way. But at the end of the day, financial planning and someone being hungry today, I can't make that judgment call. I wish they had planned better. That's in addition to the people who always are struggling to make ends meet and always need help from Leket.
Let's just talk a little bit about your personal story. So how is it that you ended up, this has become your life mission. How did you get here? And what has it meant for you?
So look, I have a very traditional, modern Orthodox background. I went to law school in New York. I worked at a software business in Israel that our family owns. I'm very lucky to be part of a fortunate family. Again, worked very hard to get to where they are and continue to work hard at that. And I certainly never imagined that I would leave the regular world, let's call it, the business world, and join what we call the third sector. Even when I started Leket, it was a lark, and I told cousins I was working with, I'm going to take off for 3-4 months. I want to see what's going on in poverty, in food waste, and let me see if I can get something off the ground. But I very quickly realized that there were tremendous possibilities here. And, just one thing led to another. And after a couple of years, I realized I'm probably not going to go back into business. I'm very blessed that I can spend my time on Leket. And by the way, many other charities, that's how I spend my time. Just an example, I've met with your wife.
You have indeed.
Talk about charity, and that's really just me using what I think is my expertise that I've built up generally. It doesn't, in the not-for-profit world. And I'm also very lucky that even with my career choices, I also get to be a giver and spend time thinking about that as well.
Right. How has that worked for you within the broader family dynamic? So their family business, other interests, have other family members joined the Leket process? How has that dynamic worked for you personally?
So look, certainly when I started this, it was not the easiest thing for my wife to, it's just straight, like what 25-year-old says, I'm going into the charity world. It's not that common. Not that there are millions of people who work in charities around the world, but let's say in our social circles, it's not that common a thing to do. That's number one. Number two, certainly everyone in the family has been very supportive. I think whether they're interested or not, if they're not interested, I think they're just embarrassed. So.
That works.
I'm not going to run numbers, but everyone's been supportive and everyone's very proud of what Leket has accomplished. It's part of a family that's already done many wonderful things for the Jewish people, and this is just another thing to hang our hat on. That wasn't the purpose. Certainly for me as a young person, it was very nice. Now 17 years later, I'm not so young, as you can see from the beard. So it's been an interesting journey in that sense. But the pride in building something makes your career choices sometimes be much more comfortable in a family, in a family setting.
Right.
That's me. And maybe not everyone may have the same take as me in the greater family.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's great. If there were others who wanted to take that path and become social entrepreneurs, dedicate themselves to philanthropy in whole or in part, what tips could you give them as they start their journey that would make it easier for them in terms of mistakes that you've made that they shouldn't make, interaction with other members of the family? What could you say that would be helpful?
So I think the first question someone needs to ask themselves is, do I want to spend my, for me, it's a job. It's my job. Whether I get paid or not doesn't matter. This is my job. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to change your job? Okay. Do you want to change your job working for someone else, or do you want to change your job and be your own boss? Okay. That's a big question you need to ask yourself. A lot of people who you work with, they're not used to anyone else giving them orders.
Right.
Okay. So you have to be ready for that. If you want to join the charity world as a worker, okay, you got to be ready for that. Now, you can often add a lot of value. I think you also have to come in with a modicum of respect and humility, and not whoever works in the charity world works there because, I don't know, they're, it's like the old joke they used to say, who's the gym teacher, right? They couldn't get it. That's the person who couldn't get any other job in the school.
Right.
It's kind of like that. No, they're incredibly talented people who've made that decision to work in the charity world, despite the haircut that they get in their income, because they think it's important. So I think that's very, very important, because a lot of people come into charities and right away they're bulldozers, whether they're coming in as an employee, as a board member, as an advisor. Don't assume that you know better than the people who are working in the charity. And actually, one of the nice things I've seen with my board in Israel is my leading board members, the ones who are really involved, they are uber respectful of our CEO. Okay, he's the leader, not them.
Yeah.
Even if they give Leket $500,000 a year, he's the leader. This is his ship. They're there to support him. And because of that, his relationship with them is fantastic. Okay, he goes to them for advice, right? He doesn't and that's really what. So if you're looking at board membership, you have to look at it one way. And yes, are there many organizations who need to be run roughshod? Yes, but in general, I think you really make that decision. The first and most important decision is, what am I looking for from my charity interaction? And I want to caution people as well. One of the things I've always been at Leket, at this point, we have a very good name. And so there are a lot of people who they trust us, they know us, and their diligence is quite limited. I like when people want to get involved. I like when people want to do diligence, because I think we're going to come out so well that they're actually going to add a zero to their gift. Now, right, wrong, arrogant or not, that's where I think we are as an organization right today. But I think, unfortunately, I've seen over the years with other organizations I'm involved in, or scandals that I've seen, that I know about. Unfortunately, people who've worked so hard for their wealth, they sometimes give away money a little bit too easily. And so, and this is a pitch for you guys, even though you didn't ask, where you can have a partner like Darren, who's experienced and can maybe help take care of some of that, legwork. It's really important, especially, maybe if you're giving $180, it's one thing. But if you're giving significant sums, take that time. The same way you take the time before you buy a company or make investments, take that time. It's better in the long run for the Lekets of the world as well, because it creates that comfort level. So, that's just a couple of tidbits.
So I'm going to summarize that. Think about this in terms of career, because these are career choices. Do you want to be non-exec? Do you want to be, is this going to be your day job? And what does that mean for you? Have humility when you go in, and don't think you always know best, because there are professionals out there. And if you're looking to be a giver, do your diligence properly. Look at it as you would look at any other investment. And if needs be, bring professionals along with you to help you in that path. So I think those are the points. It is fantastic to speak to you. It's a real pleasure. You're an inspiration. I must say it. And you should only have the greatest of success for yourself and for Leket. And we can only pray that sometime soon we won't need Leket to this world. But while we do, it's great to know that people like you are out there doing the good work.
Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you to all those of you who are watching this very, very interesting podcast. I've watched all the others on the YouTube channel.
Oh, you're very kind. Okay. You do well. Thanks very much.
Thank you.